Hello and welcome to this edition of Crossover. I'm Ji Xiaojun with Charlotte and Rush. Welcome back to Crossover Rush. Long time no see.
Hi everybody.
And
hi Charlotte.
And the greeting word these days would be, did you buy salt?
Almost.
And were you asked this question before?
Actually, I hadn't seen the news reports yet that day, and someone asked me, you know, have you bought salt today? And I said, salt? Why would I buy salt?
Yeah, and it's all because of the earthquake, because of the nuclear crisis in Japan, and people were worried about the radiation effect that might be affecting the health of our, our daily life, and they think, the perception is, they think, because in China, all this salt will be containing some
level of radiation.
Iodine.
Iodine, yes.
Not radiation, but reduced radiation. And I'm not quite sure about that part of the knowledge, but according to the reports, it's understood that in radiation, a part of that element is
radioactive iodide.
And when you have iodine in your body, that means you are virtually resisting that from the radiation.
A little more specific than that. It targets your thyroid, and so if you have enough iodine in your body, you won't absorb as quickly the radioactive iodide.
So in other words, you're protecting yourself from the radiation.
Yeah, you're protecting more specifically your thyroid.
And that's why it seems the whole country in that specific day or 2 days is pursuing all these salt. And have you seen any scenes like that? Have you heard stories about that?
When I heard the story, it was too late.
It's already sold out.
But I was out of the country at that time, so I was thinking maybe I should
bring some salt back
of salt.
But the same thing was happening in the States, and similar thing was happening in the States as well.
Iodine tablets.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, iodine source.
And talking about that, and one of my friends said he got calls from his friends in the States saying, can you buy me some salt, bags of salt, just in case? When I come back, I can't buy any.
Talk about rumor busting. I mean, I read in a news report that if you were to actually eat enough salt to get enough iodine to make a difference, you would have to eat 3 kilograms of salt. And you would die from salt poisoning before you could ever see the benefits of getting the iodine from the salt.
So virtually you're turning yourself into pickles.
Basically, you're pickling yourself.
Let's just take a look at some pictures which shows how crazy the scene could be in that day and in those 2 days. All empty. All the shelters empty. Wow, whole box, a huge box, and long queues. Even in their wheelchair.
Oh my God.
And it's not only happening in one place, it's sweeping
the whole country.
This is in Beijing. According to the reports, and we had numerous reports about salt buying in these days. And it all started actually in the afternoon of the 16th. And on the 17th, on that single day in Sichuan province in southwest China, they sold 18,000 tons of salt in one province. And if not, originally it was only like 1,000 tons, and for that day it's 18,000 tons.
So it's about 18 times more than the normal level.
That's true. And in Guangzhou, on the 17th as well, the normal amount would be 180 to 200 tons. But for that day, it's 1,000 tons.
Wow.
And the price.
Yeah, prices. The price of salt has risen drastically.
Its normal price would be just 1 yuan or 2 yuan. Roughly, it's 30 cents,
25, 30 US cents, yeah.
20 cents, but it's now 5 to 50 yuan for a bag. I mean, it really depends on how big that bag is.
Yeah.
But it's just going crazy. And who are the ones? What do you think? Who are the ones buying salt?
Could be everybody. those who has got fear in their mind. And it's a very natural reaction as a human being to when there's a potential deprivation from many resources, they would just try to store as much as possible. Just as our body, if there is a potential deprivation of energy, our body would store fat and everything. So it's a very natural reaction.
That's true, and I think also, you know, it's also a big group or a large portion of the people going out and buying salt are people that don't have access to all of the reports and all of the information regarding the crisis in Japan and regarding, you know, radiation and iodine and all of that.
For that single day on the 17th, the whole country sold 370,000 tons of salt. That's 24 days of normal sales amount of that country. They say there are 4 groups of people who are now pursuing salt, who are buying salt. One, those who believe, first, those who believe, you know, salt can prevent them from taking radiation from Japan. Second, they're worried about the safety of the salt they would buy in the future because they believe that the radiation is going to affect the sea water.
Now, that's an interesting question, and I still haven't found an answer to this question. Maybe one of our viewers might have an answer for me. Can salt retain radioactivity, radiation? Because salt is dead. It's not a living, it's not like spinach or milk. You know, we've seen some reports about they found higher levels of radiation in spinach and milk in Japan, you know, and everything. Can salt retain radioactivity? I don't know. Can it be radioactive?
Give me an answer.
At least it's got a potential to be polluted by the radiation, by the seawater that
seawater,
has ingredients of the radioactive materials.
We don't know because we're not experts yet, but I guess we have experts watching this show. Maybe you can send us an email telling us
very curious about
whether
that.
it's possible or not. But what I'm thinking is, whatever that can be, it's a pollution. And when it's put, it's a certain amount, a little drop of a big drop, when it's put in the sea, as vast as a sea, as an ocean. No, it's tiny part of that sea ocean. I'm not quite sure whether it's still going to be there after maybe a few days, or it's going to be gone in a way.
Well, you know, another thing with all of this that I think we can't forget is that we're around radiation every day. I mean, our cell phones, our, you know, any electronics, hospitals,
security
X-rays, scanners. I mean, radiation is something that we come into contact with every day, and so I think it's very important to try our best to keep putting this all in perspective. You know, because again, you know, a report came out about how spinach and milk, and they found radiation levels in the spinach and milk were on the high side. But again, the media reports on that, they didn't specify what's the high side compared to what? Compared to an hour-long phone call on your cell phone, you know? How does that compare? Or just to put it in perspective.
But normally at times like this, people would take the worst scenario into consideration.
Of course.
Yeah.
But Rush, you're from the aviation industry, and we understand radioactivity. It's everywhere, especially for the people working in the aviation industry.
Yes, there are several places that you are exposed to radioactive radiation. For example, if you fly over the polar area, and it's also very high in altitude, so it's considered radiation is higher over there. I know that the crew members flying over that polar route, are given iodine pills for protection. Also, there is also radiation for radar on the aircraft. And on the nose, there's very strong radar on the nose. It is normally shut off on ground, but if it's on, the radiation is very, very strong.
So it's affecting not
only... avoid standing in front of the aircraft.
That's the pilot
Even if it's
job.
on ground.
Well, no, the pilot's behind the nose.
Yeah.
I guess it might go both ways.
In
Yeah.
front of the nose.
Okay, that's that.
Wow, that is
I've
a
learned
very-
something
very
today.
important-
Thank you.
Secret
Okay.
by the industry.
Very important tip. Do not stand in front of a plane, especially a huge plane. That tends to be
if
stronger.
the radar's turned on.
You never
don't-
know when it's on
you
and
don't know.
off.
You
If
don't
it's
know.
turned on.
Well, okay.
But
We are human beings. Human beings make mistakes.
exactly, try to stay behind the nose of the plane. Anyway, let's just go back to this information. The groups of people who were buying the salt in those days. The first group, as we said, the ones who believe we're going to be affected by this radiation. And they believe salt can prevent that from happening. The second group is the ones who are worried about safety of the future salt made of seawater. And the third group are the ones who happen to be out trying to buy some salt because they need some.
Who ran out of salt at home?
And somehow they happen to meet all these people rushing out for the salt. The final group would be the ones who are trying to make a profit out of this emergency, out of the rush of people,
Traders, yeah.
all these traders.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we will take a short break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about what measures have been taken by the government, by the scholars, and by average people like us when something like that happened. We'll be right back after a short break. And welcome back to Crossover. We've been talking about this salt crisis, which happened actually a few days ago, which lasted for a few days, and lots of people bought tons of
Literally tons of salt.
tons of salt, which they would consume for the rest, I guess, 10 years. It has a huge amount.
Depending on how they consume it.
Yes.
Exactly. So what happened after that when something like that, when a salt emergency happened? What did the government do? What all these scholars do at the time?
I think the government first used all media to stop to give the correct information.
To clarify.
Yes, exactly. To clarify that salt is not going to be contaminated, or it doesn't help, or whatever, to give as much information.
As I said,
That's
2 to 3 grams for each day before it can take any effect.
3 kg.
Kgs.
3 kilograms of
Well,
salt.
kilograms instead, yeah.
Yeah. Kilograms. That 3 kg of salt will kill you.
Pickles.
It's true. No, but I think the day or 2 days after the salt crisis happened, I bought a China Daily, which is the English newspaper, and on the front page was myth or fact, and they had an entire article about how most of China's salt doesn't even come from the sea. It's
Exactly.
so it's not all sea salt.
And the first thing, all these scholars, all these specialists, they came out on TV, radio, newspapers saying it's no use at all how much, doesn't matter how much you eat, how much salt you eat each day. I mean, you can't possibly use 2 3 kilograms of salt each day
No.
by eating.
Goodness, no.
Yeah, and the second one is they actually arrested someone for making up that gossip, making that false information.
Did it start as a text message or?
They said, according to the report, they said it's Mr. Chen, it's this Mr. Chen from Hangzhou who works in a computer company, an IT company, and after the earthquake in Japan, he basically released a message on the internet saying, according to some valuable information to my disposal, the earthquake and the nuclear crisis in Japan will have effects on the sea in Shandong province, that is in the east part of China. And please tell your families and your friends to buy and store up some salt or some dry seaweed, and do not eat any sea products in the coming year. And remember, we are in a global age or internet age, and once some information like that is being reviewed on the internet, it's exploded virtually on the internet. So it gets to everyone in the country. And that's why we saw scenes like that, people lining up just for salt.
So what happened to the seaweed? Does China
It
have
seems
a
people
lack
just
of
paid
seaweed
attention
now?
to salt instead of seaweed.
Actually, seaweed has a lot of natural iodine in it. Seaweed is a good source of
I'm
iodine.
ordering seaweed every meal that I take now.
Yeah.
You are taking insurance for that.
I like seaweed.
I do too.
And that Mr. Chen from Hangzhou, he was detained for 10 days and he got a fine of 500 yuan. He paid for what he did. And actually, he came out again on the internet saying what I said was not true. Do not try to stock up salt anymore.
You know, that makes me think of a message I received, I think, the day after the earthquake and the tsunami happened, from a friend. It was a forwarded text message.
It's about the BBC report?
BBC Flash News. And my sister and I and my husband, we all thought, And so my sister went online to BBC's website, and they had a huge statement.
We didn't say so.
This is not at all, coming from BBC. It's a hoax. It's a, and so, but there are a lot of these messages going around.
Yeah, have you received that message?
No, I was out of the country on that day, on the 16th
Trying
and
to
17th.
avoid that crisis. But
I was very glad at that time. I said, "Oh, good. At least I can buy salt
an important salt
from this city."
It's made in the secure part of the seawater. Well, that message actually said, according to the BBC report, the radiation from the nuclear crisis in Japan is going to affect the weather and the climate in China. When it rains, do not expose yourself to the rain and try to stay indoor for at least 24 hours after the rain.
That's right.
Well, and that was actually terrifying. When you say it's a report from BBC, you tend to believe it. It's true. Anyway, and the next action they took at the time was lots of traders or these supermarkets, little supermarkets, they were also fined for raising up the price of salt. As we said, the original price was only 1 to 2 yuan for each bag, a small bag like this size, but it's been raised to like 50 yuan.
As high as 50, yeah.
Yeah, when you did that, you would get fined. And one more information which is extremely important. China produces over 80 million tons of salt each year, and what we need for 1 year is just 8 million. So we have more than enough salt. Don't worry about that.
Plenty of salt.
Well, we would say the government did a good job in clarifying the right information
and very
to the
quickly,
public.
too.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
And they invited the specialists to clarify that. One, it's no use at all. You need 2 to 3 kilograms for each day for before the iodine
could take effect.
Before the iodine could take effect. Second, we have more than enough reserve of salt in China, so don't worry about that. You can buy salt anytime you want in the year. So what happened next is interesting. People are not worried about the lack of salt. They start to worry about the salt they've already stocked up. They need at least 2, 3 years or even 10 years to finish the salt they've bought. What happened is they try to return all the salt bags to the supermarkets, and what's going to happen next, we don't know. We'll talk about that after a short break. You're watching Crossover. And welcome back to Crossover. We've been talking about this salt crisis happening in China just not long ago after the nuclear crisis in Japan caused by the devastating earthquake. And lots of people bought lots of salt. They stocked up salt. But when the government said it's no use at all, and we have more than enough salt reserve, and lots of people made a new decision. They tried to return the salt bags to the market.
Which I think, to my knowledge and the reports I've read, is not going very smoothly. I mean, you bought the salt, you can't just return it.
Exactly.
Now people are getting on the bandwagon of what you can do with salt.
Exactly.
What do you do
And
with all this salt?
One of the good arguments given out by all these supermarkets would be, okay, the security of the salt that we sell is guaranteed. Once you've already bought back, you've already taken the salt back to your home, and you return it back to us, and we are going to sell it to someone else. We can't guarantee the safety of the salt that you returned.
Fair enough.
And what I read on the internet is they've released a report about how to use wisely the salt you've stocked up. The first one, it's very useful in preventing your hair from going away from your hair.
Falling out. Falling out.
Loss of hair.
Loss of hair.
Falling off.
Or to prevent your hair from falling out.
Out.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main functions of salt is it is quite helpful in preventing your hair from falling out.
Oh, really?
If you rub it on your head?
If you make kind of salt paste or salt soup and put it on the scalp for 5 minutes and wash it up. And do it twice. Once in the morning, once in the evening. For 15 to 20 days, you'll see the effect.
I've never heard that before regarding hair loss.
Well, if that makes sense, then another scenario is we sweat every day. The head sweats. And our sweat is very salty.
That's true.
All right. Use your own resource for that too, right?
Good call.
Second function of salt, it can help stop bleeding, nose bleeding.
Help stop nose bleeding?
Yep. And when you get tired and when you have inner heat, according to the Chinese tradition, Chinese medicine, you have nose bleeding.
Right, you get
for
a
various
nosebleed.
reasons. And then use some cotton soaked in salt water and then put it in your nose. And then it'll stop. And at the same time, drink some salty water. 1 cup of salty water. It can help as well. We don't know. I've never tried that. And it can also be used to clean the toilet.
Well, salt, salt can be used. If you can clean a wound or a cut in salt, and I know they say that if you have some cuts or whatever, if you go into the ocean, into salt water, it's very good for healing.
Also, you don't have to. You just put enough salt in the water, and you can feel like swimming in the ocean.
In that sea.
You don't have to go to the
But if you
deep.
put in enough salt, you can float.
I'm sure the list can go on and on. I just admire all these talented people
Very creative.
thinking of these all these new functions of salt, all these unfound, neglected functions of salt. It only comes out when we have more than enough salt in our house.
There's one more. You can make pickles.
That's what I said. You
No,
turn
but
yourself into pickles.
No, not yourself.
Right.
Make pickled salted vegetables, or salted meats.
True.
So?
Because it's only these days we buy pickles from supermarkets and we don't make them anymore ourselves. But it seems, all these kind of food emergencies or food crises is happening all the time, not only this time, not only after the earthquake crisis, nuclear crisis in Japan. People are doing that for reasons. For a reason, they worry about the future. They have their own worries.
And also, this is something called a herd mentality.
Or pack mentality,
Or group philosophy.
Sometimes it's not because we're worried about the future. We are just doing it because everyone else around us is doing that. And
it's not always food. Look at now with certain electronic devices, you get one and then everyone wants one and then there's a shortage and,
You're saying iPad, right?
Well, iPad or, whatever,
True. And even in a restaurant, in a new restaurant with some of customers, nobody knows what to order. If one orders a steak and everybody orders a steak.
That's true. If you're in a new city and if we don't know which restaurant is good one, we try to see which one is busy and then, that's supposed to be good because everyone else is going there.
Exactly. So it's something that happens every day. Now,
if we just take a little retrospective over here,
Okay.
If you go back in the few years, just in this decade, from 2000 until now, we've seen quite a few this kind of emergencies. In 2003, that's when SARS hit China.
Yeah.
That's true, and there was a big run on a bunch of things. Masks were sold out instantly, and also hand sanitizer or sanitizing hand wipes or anything to do with sanitizing your hands.
Right.
Couldn't find it anywhere.
And there was a joke actually, because a few days ago, everyone was trying to buy salt, and one grandma was calm and she didn't do anything, and she was asked why you didn't rush to the supermarket for salt. He said, well, the salt I bought in 2003 is still there.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, but I'm sure it's a made-up one.
Oh, how funny.
And in 2000...
It's true, I still have some masks.
Right, hey, a true story happening over
I
here.
had some hand sanitizer from 2003 that doesn't look like hand sanitizer anymore.
Right. And in 2009, another crisis. This time it's about H1N1.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when the price of garlic just skyrocketed because everyone was buying garlic.
Normally for a kilogram.
Chewing gum also must be so
And
very
chewing
good.
gum.
Yeah.
For a kilogram at the time, originally the normal price would be only something like 10 yuan. So nearly about $2. And
A kilogram of garlic.
a kilogram. The final price it reached as high as 100 and something for a kilogram. So that's like $20.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you want to give presents to your friends and families,
Give them
that's
some
something you
garlic.
will want. And do you remember last year, in 2010, green peas?
Yeah, I remember.